The Florida Panthers get 4 important points over the weekend, and they did it in 2 different ways.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Tuesday, December 9th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcasting network in the nation, and it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, the host of the show, and you could follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long. You can do that all on FanDuel. So, Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on another edition of the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers after the Florida Panthers were able to get 4 important points, one in a comeback fashion against the Columbus Blue Jackets, where they didn't lead until the overtime winner by Sam Bennett, and then a shutdown game on Sunday late afternoon against the New York Islanders. But I do want to say I apologize for not releasing a Monday show and then having to release this late morning on a Tuesday, as matinee games do interfere with my other job that I do have on weekends. So had to watch both of these games on demand. And then on Monday, I had jury duty, which thankfully I only had to report for that one day and don't have to go back after Monday. So thankfully that's not the case for me. And now we are back rolling here on the podcast. So watch the game against the Blue Jackets on Sunday night, and then I watched the Islanders game on Monday. So watching these games and knowing the result, but it's not the same as watching it in live action. But the Panthers get a big win, and they did it on 6-7 weekend, where Peter Worrell 6'7", as in his height, banged the drum right before, and then the Panthers they got the win against the Columbus Blue Jackets. But even before they went down 4-1, you just saw how the Panthers were still able to kind of stifle the Blue Jackets in the game, where they had like a big 10-minute stretch right before the end of the first period, which both of these games, what they had in common was a 10-plus minute stretch of not allowing a shot, and then just clogging it in the neutral zone and not allowing them to just dump. And then when they dumped the puck, the Panthers defensemen were the first ones back there to quickly get the puck out there. But again, the Panthers were in the position on Saturday's game where they were kind of on the chase. And on Saturday, they thankfully were able to bring back Eetu Luostarinen after the barbecue accident. And now all of a sudden, the lineup was a little bit balanced. Erod did say during the intermission interview with Katie Engelson that it gives them an opportunity to kind of roll the 4 lines there. And again, even before the stretches where the Panthers were suffocating their opposition towards the end of the periods, both the Columbus Blue Jackets and New York Islanders were kind of the ones to get off of those fast starts and get those territorial advantages as well. But again, the Panthers found a way to win in those different situations where the problem with the Blue Jackets was in the Blue Jackets game was the fact that the Panthers were giving up a whole bunch on the rush, and there was a whole bunch of those where as opposed to Sunday's game, the Panthers really truly eliminated that. And also credit to Columbus, where they were able to consistently get to the net front, especially with how they were able to get the pucks from the blue lines. And in the case of the goal that was disallowed due to the kick, Zach Werenski was able to get that puck from the half wall to get it to Brandon Gauntz, although the situation rooms called for the challenge, and then it was an obvious kicking motion, which Dean Evison was not very pleased with. That took the goal off the board, and then it was still tied 1-1 at the time. But it's funny because you think about different types of momentum swings for the Panthers on how they were buzzing, getting a lot of offensive zone time, and then those backbreaking goals that do happen for the Panthers there. And and going down as much as 4-1, where again, those redirections getting to the net fronts, and that's what the Panthers weren't able to really capitalize early on Elvis Merzlikins. And then I mentioned that Dean Evison lost it on the bench with the kicking motion that was reversed, but also on one of the goals that Carter Verhaeghe scored, the first one that made it 4-2, where Brad Marchand was at the end boards, tried reaching for the puck to at least put it on the ice, but there was no hand pass where it was batted forward. So that was the difference in that play, where the Panthers were still able to keep the puck. It was not a missed stoppage, and then Carter Verhaeghe was able to convert. The Blue Jackets lost that challenge, and then that power play though for the Florida Panthers there was some of the best work I've seen the Panthers do on that power play, where the first unit was there the entire time. It was the feed Brad Marchand show there for the Panthers power play, and he had 10 plus shots in that game, and we saw a little bit of a dry spell for Brad Marchand. It didn't last long, but it was still kind of short for Brad Marchand. And I think that, again, the Panthers early on were having a true over-reliance on him. And the fact that we've seen different times where the Panthers have scored 8 twice, 6 against the Capitals, and then this one against the Columbus Blue Jackets, where thankfully you see some of these times for the Florida Panthers where they're able to at least get multiple scores on the board there. But yeah, it was just entertaining when the Panthers broadcast pointed to Dean Evison on the bench, and then even after the game, he was talking about how the game was a joke and didn't really truly elaborate that. But it happened in the Tampa Bay versus Pittsburgh game just a few days ago, where there was a goal that was reversed after Brandon Hagel touched the puck, and then John Cooper was discussing, if I to a media member, if I threw this at you, how would you react? And that was the situation there for Brandon Hagel. And then we, as Panther fans, knew this from 2023, from when Jake DeBrusk touched the puck towards the corner, and then they worked it back a little bit high, and then that goal ended up being reversed. That I think the Bruins would have gone up 6-3 at that 6-5, excuse me, at the time in Game 6 in 2023, and then obviously Zach Dalpe and Eetu Luostarinen happened in that game, both huge goals there for the Panthers there. In that game. But it's crazy. It kind of gave me a little bit of flashbacks. But there's also just something about Carter Verhaeghe and back-to-backs on a Saturday and Sunday at home, mind you, because this happened in February of this past season, where the Panthers were at home against the Chicago Blackhawks and then the New York Islanders the very next day. He scored 4 goals in that back-to-back stretch, one against Chicago, and then the hat trick against the New York Islanders the very next day. And then the Panthers did it again. The Carter Verhaeghe did it again, not 4 goals in this back-to-back, but at least 4 goals in these last 3 games since becoming a dad. And he's the 3rd star of the week for the Cats there. And also Carter Verhaeghe scored his 6th and 7th goal on Saturday, and also he's on a 6-game point streak. His next game with a point will put him at a 7-game point streak there. But also, this game on Saturday was not the best of performances from Aaron Ekblad and Gustav Forsling. There was that lost battle in the neutral zone that resulted in the Kirill Marchenko score, and where you think that once again the Florida Panthers were going to grab a little bit of momentum when the game was 5-4 going into the 3rd period in favor of Columbus. There was that ball that puck, excuse me, that pinballed in around their crease. Cole Sillinger was able to capitalize. Which, speaking of Cole Sillinger, he had an outstanding chance in overtime that Sergei Bobrovsky was able to stop, and then the Panthers were able to capitalize then on that on that rush from Gustav Forsling's stretch pass to Brad Marchand, and eventually getting it to Sam Bennett. But the one thing that those 3 goals that the Panthers were able to come back from when they were down 6-4 was the transition and the Panthers' ability to get speed through the neutral zone in all of their scores for what they did in the game against Columbus. And the Panthers, although they are in fact getting older, we can't deny that the Panthers once again have shown their ability to at least be aware of who's getting ahead in the play, and also the fact that they that they are capitalizing consistently. I mean, you look at how beautiful that breakout pass was to Brad Marchand, his ability to get through Dante Vabro, who was unable to close the gap, and then getting it back to his forehand to score over Elvis. And then that stretch pass for Anton Lundell, where he caught Elvis Merzlikins out of his net. And then, Eetu was the one who was ahead. And then Anton Lundell was the one who was able to capitalize into the open net. And then that set up the overtime where the Panthers had that ability to get that second point. And again, Panthers never led in this game, but at the same, but that was the Panthers' first win of the season when they were down going into the third period. So just a gutsy win for the Florida Panthers, and it's another setup from Brad Marchand to Sam Bennett. But because remember, let's not forget, in their first game, in Brad Marchand's, mind you, his first game with the Florida Panthers, he set up Sam Bennett for the game winner against the Utah Hockey Club at the time, now that they're called the Mammoth, but Hockey Club at the time, but a little bit of a different kind of goal, as Sam Bennett was able to get ahead of the play and then scored the second latest overtime winner in Florida Panthers history, just right behind the overtime winner that Sam Reinhart scored last season against LA Kings. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss the game against the New York Islanders, where the Panthers were able to just suffocate and slow things down for the team on Long Island that has a lot of vibes going well in their favor. But the Panthers caught them on the travel end of a back-to-back. We'll discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, and every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props updates as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day, and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up to a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more for all just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to the URL in the description and check the link in the show notes for more. And thank you guys once again, as always. And now we are going to discuss the Florida Panthers and their win over the New York Islanders, where the Isles came off a shutout win over the Tampa Bay Lightning on Saturday night, which I mentioned Carter Verhaeghe being third star of the week. Ilya Sorokin, the starting goaltender for the New York Islanders, was one of the first star of the week after getting the shutout. But the Panthers were not facing they were not facing Ilya Sorokin on Sunday late afternoon, as they were getting David Riddick in the net. And I mentioned this during our preview of the weekend with Joey Ganzi of the Hockey Writers, who covers the Panthers there and the NHL at large. We were discussing how the David Riddick has kind of revitalized his career and has been trusted to take more starts, as he's a goaltender who has a save percentage over the league average and has actually helped the New York Islanders get a couple of wins. So him and Ilya Sorokin have been quite the tandem for the New York Islanders there. So Jeff Petrie comes back in and in for Donovan Sabrango, and then Noah Gregor comes back in for Luke Cunnin. Those were the only lineup changes on Sunday, and also an opportunity for Jeff Petrie to kind of redeem himself after being scratched for a couple of games. Donovan Sabrango gets a scratch after a poor backhand pass as he was coming up the left wall in the offensive zone, and that allowed a transition opportunity for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So Jeff Petrie gets an opportunity to get back into the mix for the Panthers here. And like I mentioned in the first segment, kind of what these two games had in common for the Panthers as far as first periods is the fact that the opposition, the away team, was able to at least control some of the play really truly early on, and then the Panthers really shut things down from there, and they were able, thankfully, for them, able to get the first goal of the game, which is truly important. The Panthers haven't had that much in this season, and thankfully the Panthers third line of Mackey, Uvis, and Erod were able to get to work, and I was really truly impressed by the blue line all weekend as they were able. With the exception of points with, like I mentioned in the last segment, Aaron Ekblad and Gustav Forsling in the Columbus game, where the blue liners were great at activating and play. Nico Mikla is one. Seth Jones getting the big goal on the power play in Saturday's game to get it to a 4-4 game, and then scoring on the 4-on-4 to make it 3-1 for the Panthers. But Uvis Belinski is getting his first goal since game 1 of the Toronto series. But the fact that he recognized that the Panthers were winning the battle on the forecheck, they worked it back up to him, and then he said, "Hey, go get the puck again. I'm going to dump it down deep because I know that you guys are winning these battles," and then getting it back to him, and then allowing a little bit of time for AJ Greer to get into the net front, and then take the eyes away from David Ridge, where it was just a bomb from the point, and then getting it through for that goal for Uvis Belinski. So, and I thought that in this game specifically, with Noah Gregor coming back into the mix for the Panthers, I thought that fourth line was truly buzzing. Jack Studnicka was making a lot of quick decisions when he was in the example of one play where he was battling along the corner, and then just gets a shot that David Riddick reacted very late to, and almost scored on the short side past his blocker. And then there was one stretch pass that he was able to get and gain in the offensive zone, where he was just able to just make a quick decision. So it was a lot of those quick decisions for that fourth line there. And also Noah Gregor, knowing that he was coming up that especially in the third period, where he was coming up the wall near the penalty box, and he noticed that there was still a little bit of space in between him and the opposing defenseman, and saying, "Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut in, bank this off the boards, and then I'm going to be the first one to get the puck into the corner." Although there were points in where the bottom six wasn't really getting a whole bunch of points, but they were still getting at least valuable shifts, and we saw that with the Erod line as well, even outside of the goal that they scored, that they set up Uvis Belinskis for. So I thought that those units in the bottom six units were really truly getting after, as far as a whole bunch of puck possession and winning a whole bunch of their battles. So that was very that was really key into what the Florida Panthers were trying to accomplish on Sunday, especially, and then that third line, especially on the Saturday. Most importantly, even though they weren't the ones to get the majority of the scoring, so it was a big weekend for the bottom six forwards for the Cats as well. Although the accounting stats won't necessarily say so. Big week for the blue line as well. Once again. As far as getting those goals on the board, and Jeff Petrie coming into the mix, where Shabanoff didn't see Jeff Petrie coming at all, as they cleared down the middle, one of the more dangerous places to clear, and then Jeff Petrie breaks it up and then sets up Carter Verhaeghe to make it 2-0, and then the Panthers were able to get a little bit of separation. Although the end of the first period was truly dominated by the Florida Panthers, it was pretty equal in the second period, and the Panthers were able to really put things at bay. Matthew Schaefer, he was really great at protecting the puck as far as the Panthers breakouts at times when they rimmed it out, and then keeping it in. But when it came to driving the puck in the Panthers zone, the Panthers were able to truly not allow him to at least get up. And the one assist that he did make on the night was because he had a little bit of space from the top of the zone, and he was able to get it past to Matthew Barzal, and as he made the goal past Danil Tarasov, which went off of Gustav Forsingen in. But if your only goal against on a second end of a back-to-back is that, then you take that. You take that any day of the week, because you can't put that on Dino Tarasov. You can't put that on Gustav Forsling. It just happened. The puck just happens to bounce in that way for sometimes, and sometimes you just gotta move on to the next one. But again, the Panthers were able to eliminate the rush chances against the New York Islanders when they weren't able to really truly do it against the Columbus Blue Jackets on Saturday afternoon. So that's another thing. And also the minutes distribution on Sunday were vastly different than what we saw on Saturday, where there's a lot of power plays for both teams, for CBJ and Florida, which had the ice time a little bit tilted towards the top guys. Seth Jones played 28 minutes on Saturday, 21 on Sunday. Eetu, in his first game back, his average time on ice is usually around 16 minutes. And in the game against New York, he was able to get it down to 14. And his it's funny because Erod also discussed how the team is like kind of picking on him about making fire jokes. And you know what? That's a great way to bond and connect with someone, as well as horrible of a situation that is. I'm glad that he's safe, and the fact that he is safe and still coming back and playing hockey games, although he missed 8 games, I'm glad that they could have a little bit of humor with that, at least, connect a little bit there. You know what they say: if your friends roast you, that means they like you. Most times, at least for my close friends, that's how I see it. If I roast you, that means I like you as a person. but again, we're going back to the Islanders game, second end of a back-to-back. They were in Tampa. The 22-hour rule that the NHL has from start times from one day to the next, which starting at 7 and then 5 and then having to travel, the Panthers had this advantage the whole time before this game even started. And I was expecting, I'm going to put emphasis, that the Panthers were going to find a way to win this game here. And the fact that when you realize for looking at this, teams aren't going to be too aggressive on the second end when it comes to pinching, because you want to do right by your goaltender as well in the neutral zone and the offensive zone. And we saw that with the lack of penalties there, as there were only 2 on the evening, where the Panthers were just flat out not getting beat there. So that's also the thing, where although the Panthers weren't really drawing anything, the fact that they didn't the fact that you didn't allow the Islanders to get their confidence with their penalty kill, which is in the top 7 of the league, that's also kind of great when you look at that. But the Panthers were able to take care of things at even strength, especially on that 4-on-4 with more space, where Anton Lundell was able to draw the Islanders to him, and then Seth Jones was able to be the trailer and then also score there to at least create more separation. Also, with how fast the Panthers scored on the empty net. So Patrick Waugh is very aggressive when it comes to pulling his goaltenders early. Usually we've seen situations where he's pulled it with 5 minutes left, but this time it was 3, and the Panthers, within 15 seconds, they were able to just get the puck to the net and leave, no doubt, as they get 4 points in the weekend. So a much better performance for the Panthers over the end of the homestand. And then, hey, it's a 3-game point streak for the Cats, and just continue to bank those points. But the Panthers end the homestand, and now they have to hit the road. And there's lessons to be learned when the Panthers go through some bad times now with this specific group. But a veteran that Aaron Ekblad mentioned that he has played with has given him a little perspective on how to see this when the Panthers do go through a little bit of a dry spell. We're going to discuss that and more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And the World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans the real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track Price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. Prices include fees up front, which I love. No last second surprises at checkout. Alerts for teams and matches make it easy to grab tickets and at the moment they drop instead of missing out. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, Game Time. Segment number 3 here on this Tuesday, December 9th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day on the nation's #1 sports podcasting network, the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, a few bit of roster news for the Florida Panthers is Jack Devine has been sent down to the Charlotte Checkers, and he is in need of more seasoning before returning back to the NHL level, as he wasn't being put in a role that truly fits his skill set is the best way I could put it here. And playing a fourth line role when your skill set is mostly of playmaking forward and the guy who could rip one from time to time, the stay here was never supposed to last long. And also they were waiting for Jack Studnicka to be healthy, as he had missed a few weeks from the end of October to the time that he was called up to the Florida Panthers. That's why Jack Devine got the call early, and obviously he's waivers exempt, so that was the easy decision to send him back down. But still, best of luck to Jack Devine. I'm looking forward to what he does when he does return back to Charlotte. But also, congratulations to Inter Miami CF on winning the MLS Cup, another trophy to Lionel Messi's trophy case. Although I'm not really a soccer person, but hey, anytime a South Florida team wins something, I'm very proud of the region. And hey, South Florida, region of champions, as now every professional sports team has gotten a trophy. But one thing that I do want to discuss in this final segment before we sign off here on the afternoon, that the Panthers. And one thing that Aaron Ekblad truly discussed in his media availability on Friday when they were at practice was just the fact that of learning from a veteran that was in their locker room just a few years ago. And it's Joe Thornton, who just recently got inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. He played with the Florida Panthers in his very last season at 44 years old, when in the year that they won the President's Trophy. But he truly saw the change in the Florida Panthers culture before the Panthers even won a playoff series, with how they challenged the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2021 after they lost in 6 games. Jonathan Huberdeau was on a tear, but the Panthers just couldn't find goaltending, and they couldn't kill penalties in that series. And Vasilevsky saved his best for last as the series got further in that. But Joe Thornton, what a perspective that he brought to the group, and he was in the league for a really long time. And Aaron Ekblad, one thing that he definitely learned from Joe Thornton as he spoke to the media there is the fact that the team is playing, the guys who are in the NHL are playing a kid's game, and they are in adult bodies. So a little bit of perspective is that there are no bad days when it comes to the NHL, that you are living a great life that many hockey players would ask for, that were unfortunately not talented enough or even healthy enough to play with the longevity that you'll need, and also that we see in this sport, and because it is truly a gladiator type of sport. But the fact is that you win or lose, you come back, and a guy like Joe Thornton just brought a smile to his face and was still joking around with people. It kind of leaves a little bit of a message saying that, hey, you can't change what happened in the past from the losses that the Panthers did sustain, especially early in the homestand, and then the 5 straight losses at home. And all you can do is control your day. And there's that saying from the University of Oregon, win the day, that is something that they go by. And that, I think that rings true in every single sport, no matter what league it is. It's just try to be your best. There's a there about it's there's this book from this one former anchor. I forget his name on the top of my head. That he has a book called 10% Better. I'd have to look it up. But he had a panic attack on the air, and then he wrote a book about something called 10% Better, always trying to aim towards that. But in the case of the Florida Panthers, as far as their season, they are trying to be 1% better every single day. And although their game isn't necessarily uh, at their best right now, and other players are being placed in different parts of the lineup, parts that they haven't really played as much. Like, for example, Sam Bennett playing more penalty kill minutes, which again, I emphasize about Eetu Luostarinen being in the lineup, of how much more balance that brings to the unit. Because you look at the PK for the Cats, about, especially the forwards, about who's played with who. With that, Reinhart is playing with Anton Lundell. Eetu Luostarinen is playing with Brad Marchand. Erod is playing with Sam Bennett. All of those forwards have played before with each other. But the fact that they've also gained a little bit of that experience makes kind of these downtimes for the team a little bit easier to recover. And obviously, back-to-back games, when you get 4 points out of 4, and the fact that you can jump as quickly as the Panthers have had, they're not in the basement now anymore. That leaves a little bit of it leaves a better taste in your mouth for sure. And let's look ahead a little bit for the Panthers on what is coming to them. They are going to be playing Wednesday, Thursday in Utah and Colorado, and then Saturday in Dallas, and then next Monday in Tampa. It's a pretty murderer's row for the Panthers. But also, Paul Maurice did say that Bobrovsky will play on Wednesday and Danil Tarasov will play on Thursday. He did confirm that. So expect that rotation to be during the weekend. But for the Panthers here, you look at the Eastern Conference, it's mostly Metro teams that are ahead of the Panthers. So the best way for the Panthers to get into the playoffs, as of right now, it can change, is through the top 3 in the East. I mean, you have 1 game in hand compared to Toronto. And if you win that game in hand, you own the tiebreaker. 2 games in hand compared to Boston. If you win both of those, you still own the tiebreaker over Boston. Yeah, still work to do over against Montreal, but you play them 3 times this year, not 4. Tampa, you see them in less than a week, and they've been shut out in back-to-back games. The Habs have goaltending issues. The Leafs have goaltending issues as well. The Panthers are hoping to get Matthew Tkachuk back, which we could expect. Not expect, but I'm predicting that when the Panthers do come back from this road trip, that Matthew Tkachuk will be in a practice setting with the Florida Panthers. There's no reporting. This is just a guess. But for the Panthers here, this kind of momentum could truly help, hopefully, this stretch on Wednesday and Thursday. And yeah, the Colorado Avalanche are hot. So are the Dallas Stars on a 10-game point streak. But you just need to string a little bit of wins, and also truly keep that in your head about not having bad days. And the Panthers have already made it to Utah, where they're going to be where they are going to be back in a practice setting, and also getting an opportunity to get a big road win, as the Utah Hockey Club is in a little bit of a downward spiral, as they have struggled in the month of November and are going through a good amount a load of things off the ice, as far as situations there, which we will discuss more on Wednesday's show, going in Tuesday night going into Wednesday, as we will record later tonight there. But the Panthers do truly have an opportunity, which their game hasn't necessarily been right on the road. But this is where you're going to have to truly bank points here right now for the Panthers here. So again, keep that in your head as the Panthers try to scratch and claw, like once again Aaron Ekblad has said. And this is the thing, because of a guy like Aaron Ekblad has been through some of the worst times in Florida Panthers history, with the beginning of their rebuild and trying to dig out. Not as bad as the 2000s, but he's been through stuff before, and he's been through an unexpected coaching firing after making the playoffs as well. this is nothing for someone like him, as he's the senior veteran here with this group, with Barkov being out of the lineup, and this is new territory for the group as a whole. But again, that this stretch and also getting some points there could really truly help build not only the confidence but the bond, which this is already a group that is insanely close together. But that's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you for once again making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast the #1 sports podcasting network. And if it did, the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast make your Spotify wrap? If they did, make sure to tag the Locked On Network national page on X and on Instagram to get a free month of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast Everydayers Club, where you could get the members only Discord channel and ad-free exclusive access there. And once again, for those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24-hour Locked On National Podcast Network YouTube channel, and make sure to make your second listen Locked On NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. Thank you once again for listening, and I will see you guys tomorrow.